makin tertutup atau kuyup. Lupa kejadian di waktu.
Israel bombs Gaza school, batters Khan Yunis. Once-in-century African drought entering worst stage. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for joining us. I'm Otto Othman and you're watching World Today. Positive outlook from analysts and rating agencies, supported by encouraging economic figures, signals that Malaysia is making great strides to reclaim its Asian tiger status. Second Finance Minister Datuk Seri Amir Hamzah Azizan said he also received great feedback regarding Malaysia's strong economic performance during meetings with investors and analysts who expressed optimism about the country's future growth. Datuk Seri Amir Hamzah said to reclaim the Asian tiger status is not a pipe dream, and the government is very confident that Malaysia can achieve this goal. He said the Madani government has successfully maintained 21 months of stability so far after a series of changes in government and the COVID-19 pandemic, which halted the country's economic progress. Faced with a national debt of about 1.5 trillion ringgit, he said the government has to resort to some difficult decisions for the right purpose, such as targeted diesel and electricity subsidies to create more fiscal space for economic growth. He highlighted the importance of reinventing the fiscal space in order to allow the government to spend more on infrastructure that could attract more businesses and rejuvenate the economy. Malaysia will continue to raise the voice of the Palestinian people on the international stage to put pressure on the Zionist regime of Israel to support ceasefire and end the oppression in Gaza. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Mohammed Hassan said the issue of the Zionist regime's atrocities has been raised in all meetings throughout the 57th ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and related meetings. Datuk Seri Mohammed Hassan said Malaysia is advocating for the Palestinian people by highlighting the atrocities they face, aiming to pressure Israel to end the violence and agree to a permanent ceasefire. He said Malaysia wants the Palestinians to be allowed to return to their homes and the state of Palestine to be declared independent and permitted to join the United Nations. According to the minister, during the ASEAN Post-Ministerial Conference with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he has also brought the voice of the Palestinian people to the attention of the United States. He hopes that the U.S. will play a role in ending the Israeli atrocities against the Palestinians and support the ceasefire in Gaza. At least 50 people have been killed in Israeli attacks in central and southern Gaza, with one air raid hitting a school where thousands of displaced people were sheltering. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza said an Israeli strike on the school killed at least 30 people on Saturday, after a days-long military operation further south killed around 170 people. According to emergency services, the latest strike was at least the 8th time since July 6, when a school has been hit, leaving a total of more than 100 people dead, based on figures given by the Health Ministry and a hospital source. The attack on the school on Saturday came after at least 23 people were killed in Israeli attacks on Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. It was reported that the attacks on Khan Yunis had been conducted before evacuation order leaflets were dropped. Phone calls were made and text messages were sent from the Israeli military to Palestinians in the area. With most of the Gaza Strip's 2.4 million people displaced at least once during the war, many have sought refuge in school buildings, including the one hit on Saturday. UN agencies have condemned Israel's displacement of Gaza's civilian population and military attacks on areas previously declared as humanitarian safe zones. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization is sending more than 1 million polio vaccines to Gaza. This is to be administered over the coming weeks to prevent children from being infected after the virus was detected in sewage samples. While no cases of polio have been recorded yet, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said without immediate action, it is just a matter of time before it reaches the thousands of children who have been left unprotected. He wrote that children under 5 were most at risk from the viral disease, and especially infants under 2, since normal vaccination campaigns have been disrupted by more than 9 months of conflict. Besides polio, the UN reported last week a widespread increase in cases of hepatitis A, dysentery, and also gastroenteritis as sanitary conditions deteriorate in Gaza, with sewage spilling into the streets near some camps for displaced people. Russia has claimed the capture of another village in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region amid heavy fighting as its forces advanced towards the city of Pokrovsk. Russian aerial bombing of the Donetsk region hit the town of Mirnogard close to Pokrovsk and the town of Kurakov further south. Regional prosecutors said at least 5 people were wounded, including an 11-year-old child who was in the yard of a private house. The Russian Defense Ministry said its troops liberated the village of Lazovatsk, about 24 kilometers east of Pokrovsk and near the Russian-occupied small town of Okeretin. Ukraine, however, has not confirmed the village changing hands. Kyiv's Defense Ministry meanwhile said that Ukrainian forces had halted 37 Russian attacks in the Pokrovsk area. It noted that the hardest fighting was near the village of Novoaleksandrivka. The village is around 2 kilometers from Lazovatsk and was claimed by Russia last month. In another development, a Russian Navy ship arrived in Cuba for a 3-day stay, 6 weeks after Moscow sent a submarine and other naval vessels to visit the communist state of Florida's coast. The small training ship was greeted with salvos from Cuba artillery before it anchored in Havana's harbor, where residents and tourists gathered to take a look. Russia's embassy in Cuba said the ship, accompanied by 2 others, is part of the Baltic Fleet Group that is making a friendly visit to the Cuban capital. In mid-June, the Russian nuclear-powered submarine Kazan, which Cuba said was not carrying nuclear weapons, docked in Havana for 5 days. The unusual deployment so close to U.S. territory came amid major tensions over the war in Ukraine, where the Western-backed government is fighting a Russian invasion. The United States sent a fast attack submarine to its Guantanamo Bay base in Cuba a day after the Russian submarine arrived. The Philippines said it carried out a resupply and rotation mission to troops on a South China Sea reef without untoward incidents, more than a month after a violent clash with Chinese forces in the area. The Philippines said the mission to 2nd Thomas Shoal was the first since Manila and Beijing reached a provincial arrangement last week for the delivery of daily necessities and rotation missions for Filipino troops based on a rusty warship grounded atop the reef. The Philippine Foreign Department said no untoward incidents were reported after a civilian vessel escorted by a Philippine Coast Guard boat reprovisioned the BRP Serena Madre and rotated troops there yesterday. China Coast Guard spokesman Gan Yu confirmed that the Philippines had carried out the resupply mission in accordance with the temporary arrangement reached between the 2 countries. The shoal has been a focus of clashes between Chinese and Philippine ships in recent months, sparking concern it could draw in Manila ally the United States in a conflict as Beijing steps up efforts to push its claims to almost the entire South China Sea. Coming up next, French rail operator on track to fix sabotage damages. A record drought that has devastated crops across southern Africa, causing millions of people to go hungry and pushing 5 countries to declare a national disaster, is entering its worst stage. The United Nations World Food Programme said it expected the number of people struggling to put enough food on the table to increase as the lean season, the period between harvests when food is scarcest, gets underway. World Food Programme's acting regional director of Southern Africa, Lola Castro, said at least 27 million people have been affected in the region where many rely on agriculture to survive.
So people haven't been able to pick anything, and the problem is next harvest is only in April 2025. And there is where the problem lies. We have a very long period where people haven't got anything from their fields, and they have to sustain themselves till April 2025.
The small kingdom of Lesotho became 2 weeks ago the latest country to declare a state of national disaster over the El Nino-induced dry spell after Malawi, Namibia, Zambia and Zimbabwe. Other countries such as Angola and Mozambique might follow soon or signal a gap between the food they have and the food they need. Meanwhile, a fire raging out of control in Northern California has rapidly become among the biggest ever in the western U.S. state. The so-called park fire had burned almost 350,000 acres over late yesterday morning, making it the 7th largest ever recorded in Californian history. The fire, which prompted orders for more than 4,000 people to flee their homes, was burning through a largely rural, mountainous area near the city of Chico, some 145 kilometers north of the state capital, Sacramento. For now, it is 0% controlled, despite the efforts of about 2,500 personnel with over a dozen helicopters and several planes. Instead, the park fire continued to burn aggressively due to steep terrain and winds. The latest update showed at least 134 structures have been destroyed by the fire. The blaze has generated an enormous plume of dense gray smoke, which has also been blown over nearby states. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met in Vientiane, to exchange views on bilateral relations and agreeing to maintain communication at all levels and further implement the important common understandings reached at the San Francisco meeting last November between the two heads of state. During his meeting with Blinken, Wang said that in the past 3 months, the diplomatic, financial, law enforcement and climate teams of the two sides, as well as the two militaries, have maintained communication along with increased people-to-people exchanges. He noted that China's policy towards the United States has been consistent, adhering to the principles of mutual respect, peaceful coexistence and win-win cooperation. Blinken, meanwhile, said that the United States is strongly committed to stabilizing U.S.-China relations, continues to follow the One China policy. He added that the United States looks forward to maintaining regular communication with China and continuing cooperation in areas including counter-narcotics and artificial intelligence. He also noted that the United States would like to manage differences between the two sides and avoid misunderstanding and miscalculation. Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe has announced his candidacy for the presidential election scheduled to be held in September. Wickremesinghe succeeded Gotabaya Rajapaksa as Sri Lanka's leader in July 2022 after months of political and economic turmoil in the country. He said he is running for president with a clear vision and unwavering determination to elevate the nation to the global stage and transform it into a prosperous and thriving country. The president, in his statement, mentioned the unprecedented crisis that brought him to power 2 years ago. Wickremesinghe, who was the lone lawmaker from his United National Party in Parliament, was named Prime Minister by Gotabaya Rajapaksa in May 2022. He was appointed acting president as Gotabaya Rajapaksa escaped to the Maldives on a military plane and from there to Singapore amid growing unrest in the country. He, however, returned to Sri Lanka a few weeks later after the situation became less volatile. Traffic on France's high-speed rail network should be back to normal on Monday. Transport Minister Patrice Vergriet said after sabotage signal stations and cables caused travel chaos on Friday, the opening day of the Olympic Games. French rail operator SNCF reiterated that transport plans for teams competing in the Paris 2024 Olympics would be guaranteed. Friday's pre-dawn attacks on the high-speed rail network damaged infrastructure along the lines connecting Paris with cities such as Lille in the north, Bordeaux in the west, and Strasbourg in the east. Another attack on the Paris-Marseille line was foiled. Speaking to reporters at Paris Montparnasse train station, Vargiet and SNCF chief Jean-Pierre Farandot said train services would continue to experience disruption throughout the weekend as they gradually return to normal. On Friday, 100,000 people could not take their trains and another 150,000 faced delays, but eventually got to their destinations. Two security sources said the modus operandi meant initial suspicions fell on leftist militants, on environmental activists, but they said there was not yet any evidence. Coming up in sports, mixed fortune for Malaysian shuttlers on day one of Paris Olympics. National mixed doubles pair Cheng Tanji Do Yi-wei kick-started the country's Paris 2024 Olympics pursuit in badminton by beating Singaporean couple Terry Hee Yong Kai, Jessica Tan Wei Han yesterday. Ranked world number 9, the duo managed to overcome a slow start to notch a 23-21, 21-12 victory for first point in the Group D match at Porte de la Chapelle Arena. Mixed double shuttlers Tan Ji Yi-wei survived a scare in the first game before winning their opening Group D match in the Paris Olympic Games. The duo had some anxious moments when they were comfortably leading 20-16 before allowing the Singaporeans to equalize at 20-all in the opening game before getting it right, narrowly snatched the win. But they were unstoppable in the second game as the world number 9 pair wrapped up the match in 41 minutes. Tang Ji Yi-wei are now in a good position to make it to the quarterfinals as they will play Americans Vincent Chio, Ginny Guy next. In another development, men's double shuttlers Aaron Chia So Yik had to come from behind to beat England's Ben Lane, Sean Windy 19-21, 21-16, 21-11 in a hard-fought opening Group A match in the Paris Olympics. World number 4 Aaron Woyik took time to get going against the tricky English pair and faced a scare after losing the first game narrowly at Adidas Arena in Porte de la Chapelle on Saturday. In their pursuit to snag the gold, the world number 4 pair fought hard to overcome the English pair by 19-21, 21-16, 21-11. The victory was crucial in their bid to claim a top 2 finish to advance to the quarterfinals. Aaron Woyik are expected to ease past Canada's Neil Yakura Adam Dong of Canada in their second fixture later today. In the women's doubles, national pair Pearly Tan and Tina put up a good fight, but it was not enough to overcome China's world number 1 Cheng Qingyan Jia Yifan, the reigning Olympic silver medalist. Pearly Tina then went down 21-17, 22-20 for an opening defeat in Group A. The Blazons produced many high-flying shots, with the most entertaining being they leaped up to hit 5 smashes during a ferocious 13-shot rally. Midway through the second game, Pearly and Tina tripped over onto the floor together after they got tangled in each other's legs, and it looked like it was curtains for them. However, they rallied and closed the gap, with the Chinese duo again one-upping each other point for point. Chants of Malaysia echoed through the crowd in the final moments of the second game, with loud cheering and whistling when Pearly and Tina fought their way to a 20-20 score. Though they ultimately lost, the duo plan to approach their next match with the same ferocity and teamwork. The world number 13 Malaysians must also win their remaining 2 matches to advance to the knockout round. Pearly Tina will seek to bounce back when they take on Japan's world number 6 Mayu Matsumoto Wakana Nagahara later today. National shooter Jonathan Wong's hopes of moving into the final round of the men's 10-meter air pistol evaporated at the Chateauroux Shooting Centre, but the 2024 Paris Olympics qualifying round started yesterday. In the action at the Chateauroux Shooting Centre that featured 33 shooters, the 31-year-old shooter finished in 26th spot with 570 points, 14 points behind leader Serbian Damir Mikac, who gunned down 584 points. According to the tournament format for the 2024 Paris Olympics, only the top 8 shooters for the qualifying round advanced to the final round. For the record, Jonathan is competing in the Olympics for the second time since he had also competed in the 2016 Rio Olympics, where he finished 28th in the 10-meter air pistol and 37th in the 50-meter pistol. France claimed their first gold medal of their own Olympics and first of any kind in men's rugby sevens when Antoine Dupont led them to a stunning 28-7 win over double defending champions Fiji on an unforgettable night in the Stade de France on Saturday. As the crowd roared and the play seconds, another Belgian, Wout van Aert, won. Next, Doraemon drone show wows crowd in Hong Kong. Thousands of rubber ducks raced to the finish line in central London on Thursday in an event supporting Cosmic Charity, who look after babies and children in intensive care. After being launched off a nearby bridge and into the canal, staff on paddle boards helped propel the rubber ducks down a 100-meter stretch to the finish line. Revelers could sponsor a duck to take part in the race, with funds going to Cosmic Charity.
It's a lovely community event, so we get all the companies come down and watch the duck race, we get all the residents here, but plus we also get all our Cosmic families, so we've got lots of supporters here today of Cosmic Charity. We've got some children here, we've got some babies here, they're all looked after on our hospital here at St Mary's and also at Queen Charlotte's in Hammersmith. So we just want them to come along, have fun, watch 3,000 ducks be launched off the A&E Bridge, and they race towards the finish line, and everybody just loves this event because it's such a good fun family event.
A drone show themed around the beloved Japanese manga series Doraemon wowed thousands of fans and tourists in Hong Kong. In the 15-minute display, 1,000 drones illuminated the skies over Victoria Harbour, forming patterns that resembled characters from Doraemon and his futuristic gadgets, including the time machine and magnifying flashlight. Surichai Apiratuchom, 62-year-old visitor from Thailand, said it was his first time watching a Doraemon drone show and noted that the crowd reacted with excitement whenever Doraemon appeared.
It's wonderful. This is my first time to see the drone show from Doraemon. And you see that when the Doraemon appears over the sky, it's wonderful. And everyone here, wow, this is the Doraemon.
Meanwhile, Hong Kong resident Sophia Wong mentioned that the show brought back her childhood memories. Doraemon, a blue and white robotic cat equipped with futuristic gadgets, assists young boy Nobita Nobi in their exciting adventures. The manga series continues to charm fans across generations worldwide. The event marks the second Doraemon drone show held in Hong Kong and is part of the 100% Doraemon and Friends exhibition tour, which runs from 13th July to 18th August. Deep in Colombia's northwestern forest, an orchid enthusiast has gathered a colorful collection of nearly 25,000 specimens, some of which he is cloning to protect them from extinction. Colombia has the world's largest number of orchid species, and new varieties are regularly discovered. Agricultural technologist Daniel Pedrajita has made it his life's mission to preserve the flowers at his sanctuary dubbed the Soul of the Forest in La Sheja, a town in the department of Antigua. He describes his collection of over 5,000 species as a genetic bank that he is responsible for to ensure that each one reproduces perfectly.
encima del bosque tenemos plantas de todo el mundo, de todas partes del mundo, incluyendo esta, que es una Masdevallia beikiana, que es una de las flores insignias del Perú, ya que esta se produce o está en su hábitat natural en los bosques de Machu Picchu.
The reserve is home to about 20 species that are endangered worldwide. It is also a laboratory for the propagation of orchids unique to Colombia. The Peruvian government exhibited 33 archaeological items that were recovered from private collections in the United States, Canada, Australia, and Switzerland in the Andean nation's latest effort to recover its pre-Hispanic cultural heritage. The artifacts, including pottery and ceremonial items, were mostly repatriated voluntarily from private citizens. The collection is made up of 11 pieces retrieved from Australia, 7 of which were voluntarily handed over by an Australian citizen. This group includes pieces from the Chankay culture, which thrived on the central coast of present-day Peru from around 1000 AD to 1470 AD. A Swiss citizen voluntarily gave 11 other artifacts, including pottery items from the Nazca culture, which sat on the southern coast from approximately 100 BC to 800 AD. 10 pieces were voluntarily donated from the United States, including ceremonial knives. Another ceremonial knife came from Canada, a piece that belongs to the Lambayaqui culture, nestled on the northern coast of present-day Peru from approximately 750 AD to 1375 AD. Well, that concludes today's edition of World Today. In our top story, Israeli attacks kills at least 50 Palestinians overnight across Gaza. Till then, I'm Otto Othman from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.